So we've jumped from Mexico to Ireland to Puerto Rico, and everything is very personal. Can you tell us something about what you're writing right now?
I'm writing nothing right now, and it's really...
I think you are the first guest, every author, right?
Which I have an idea for a new book, but I haven't started. And I think I have 2 daughters at home, 2 teenage daughters. And my older one just went to university in August. So it has been a time of tremendous change for my family. And I've just been like taking a deep breath for a minute. So I think
I feel you.
Yeah, maybe after the holidays.
Hi and welcome to Ljudboksklubben. My name is Peter and I have my colleague Peter just beside me. And we have 2 guests today. Her book, Amerikansk, was selected for Oprah's book club. Now it's time for her to join a book club. Welcome to Ljudboksklubben, Jeanine Cummins.
Thank you very much.
And also welcome to the reader, the actor, and our friend, Mirja Turestedt.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you here. So, welcome to the Gothenburg Book Fair. This is your first time in Sweden, right?
Yes, it's been amazing. I am really impressed by Gothenburg in general. It's a beautiful city.
Stockholm is nice.
But I hear it's not always this nice with the weather. I think I got lucky.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
It
gorgeous
really
week.
is.
Yeah. We saw an Instagram post yesterday with you and you on the big screen.
No, that was amazing, right? I walked into the center and my face was like enormous on a billboard. I was like, my kids are not going to believe this. So that was
big.
fun.
Ego boost.
Yeah.
So, Jeanine, your novels have reached readers across the world. How does that feel? I mean,
pretty
going
good.
Abroad.
No, it feels wonderful. I still am not, I can't quite believe it. You know, Amerikansk was my 4th book.
Yeah.
And so I wrote for many years as a lower mid-list author. I was never translated into other languages. I didn't have book deals abroad, even in the UK. I was, published quietly at home and quite happy with that.
I know what that feels like.
Yeah. But I was just, I was so happy to be making a life in books, and that was enough for me. And always trying to write about subjects that I cared about and, the kinds of books that I could feel proud of. I never anticipated the kind of response that would come with Amerikansk. So it was painful at times, but also incredibly gratifying.
Yeah, and then Amerikansk is maybe more relevant now than 5 years ago.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And there was a huge discussion in the US.
That's one way of putting it. Discussion.
Yeah. I don't think that we follow that so much here in Sweden. But after you've been on the opera show, then.
No, it was before.
Was it before?
Yes, it actually. There was a big lead up to the publication, maybe 6 months, where everything was praise, everything was golden. And then on the day of the on sale, when Oprah announced that it was her selection for her book club, that was when everything turned. Yeah. And it was quite intense, this controversy. In fact, there was really no conversation at all. There was no dialogue. It was just a storm.
And the things was that you haven't been you are not from Mexico, you haven't been, that was the discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Primarily. I mean, there was a lot to it. There was, it's like the layers of an onion. There were so many, people have asked me in the 5 years since, why did it happen? And I'm like, we would need 7 hours to get into it. But primarily it was about identity, ethnicity, who has the right to tell what stories, and which voices get elevated above others. So,
and that's what it is to be an author. You if you write about a murder, you don't have to be a murderer.
I hope not.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
You don't have to be too big gay murderer in your last book. You don't have
necessarily.
Yeah. Mirja, you were the one that read American Dirt here in Sweden. When you get the book at the first time, what was your thoughts about it? I know that we have talked about it.
I mean, first I must say, and it's not because you were here, but actually I've probably recorded about 350 to 400 audiobooks.
Wow.
And this is by far my favorite one.
Oh.
No, it really had a huge impact, both on me as an audio reader, but also as a person. I think it was such a beautiful story and tragical. And the way you got to follow the little boy, Luca, and his mother. And also because, I mean, it's still happening today all around the world and obviously in the US.
Yeah.
But I think what was very satisfying for me as an audiobook reader was that it's very filmic, very visual.
Oh, yeah.
And I work with film as well as an actress. So it was quite easy to go into that world because I saw everything almost projected as a movie.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you very much
Oh,
for an
yeah.
experience that was, I will always bear it.
Thank you. I wish I could listen to the Swedish. I mean, I suppose I could, but
Yeah.
I don't think you get much out.
I don't think so. But that's really
But,
meaningful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And it's like, and also I think it was so beautiful with a perspective from the little boy and his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I when we went here the other day, I started to listen to it again, and the scene in the toilet when the shooting, it's fixed. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You know, I was 3 years into the writing of the book before I wrote that scene.
Yeah.
It was a 5-year project for me, including a lot of travel to Mexico, and I visited migrant shelters, and I had written a couple of very bad drafts of the book. And that scene was, I didn't know it at the time, but when I wrote that scene, it was me starting over on the 3rd or 4th draft. But I think I knew as soon as that scene was down on the paper in front of me that this was the book, you know.
Yeah, it's
So quite extensive research. I mean, traveling to Mexico and
Yes.
interviewing, and how much time approximately? How much?
Well, it was 5 years writing the book. I started writing it in 2013, and we submitted it in 2018. And I traveled to Mexico several times. I visited migrant shelters. I volunteered at a desayunador, which is like a soup kitchen for migrants. I interviewed so many people who were experts because I was not an expert, you know. So the lawyers who were doing the work of the pro bono legal work of defending unaccompanied kids. There was a remarkable woman I met who started a foundation who would go out in the desert and leave water in places where migrants had died, specifically in those places, so that no one would die in that place again. I talked to the men and women who are running the shelters and, you know, scholars and academics who were studying migration patterns. And I talked to a lot of migrants themselves. And every time I had a conversation with someone who was deeply invested in their lives in the migrant situation, I felt changed, like every time. And I felt more and more compelled to try to add my voice to this story.
But speaking of audiobooks, what's your relation to audiobooks in America? I mean, it's not as big as here, I think.
It's definitely growing, I think. And it certainly is growing in my own life. In the last 2 years or so, I find that I am always reading an audiobook now. I also am always reading a hard copy book. I'm usually reading 2 books at a time. So if I'm cooking, which I do almost every night, or I'm driving somewhere, or I'm cleaning, I have the audiobook on. And then if I am in bed at night before I go to sleep, I'm reading my book. So you know, I think there are certain kinds of stories that really lend themselves tremendously well, like you were saying. I have to tell you that I think the audiobook of American Dirt in English was better than...
Really?
I do.
Who read it? Who?
Yareli Arismendi. She is a Mexican-American actress, and she was remarkable. Like, stunning. It really was very cinematic. You know, I thought that what she brought to the characters was just incredibly vivid, and I was able to fall into her reading in a way that was remarkable. There are other books, like my new book, Speak to Me of Home. I think it's challenging as an audiobook because there are many characters, and it spans 70 years, and the characters are from Puerto Rico, St. Louis, New York, all these different accents, all these different cultures, different ages. That is really tough as a narrator and as a reader to follow who everyone is. But when you have a linear, chronological, propulsive kind of plot, I think that is the ideal conditions for listening to an audiobook.
How involved are you choosing the reader in network, not in Sweden?
Yeah, in America, pretty involved. I for American Dirt in particular, I think that we auditioned 25, maybe a lot. It was a lot. And as soon as I heard Yareli, I was like, she's the one. And there were several others before her who I was like, she was good. But Yareli was another. Because
that's the one that kind of brought your books to the public.
Yes.
And it's we talked about it before, and then it's an honor, and then it's a you have to do good work when you get a book from an author.
Yeah.
And I think that is an important part, and it's, as you say, it's growing.
Yeah.
In Sweden we have, is it 65%?
Okay.
Listen to the book compared to, so
wow.
audiobooks are
bigger than.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's just kind of boring too, because as an author you don't make as much money anymore because the hard copies don't sell.
Oh well,
unless
that's true. I mean, it is a tough market right now, especially for literary fiction. It's my hilarious agent in the United States was like, well, for your next book, I think you can write whatever you want as long as there's like a dragon having sex with an elf.
So that's the next book.
It's all romantasy. That's what's on the bestseller list now. He's like, it'll be literary because you're the one writing it. It's going to be, but that's what's selling right now, so where do we go?
Could I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
I was just curious, how come you wrote American Dirt? How come you chose that scene?
I mean, in 2013, this is funny because when I first turned that book in to my agent, the author's note was one line. And the line, I'm not going to remember the statistic, but it was something like, in 2017, a migrant died every 9 hours at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah. And that border that's the center of the politics in the U.S. right now. So
that's why. Yeah. And so I turned that book in. That was the author's note. And then the way that the book was received in the U.S. publishing world, it was very intense. We handed it in on a Friday. We sent it to 26 different editors. We got our first yes on the Saturday, less than 24 hours later. And by Tuesday, we had 22 yeses.
Wow.
So it went to auction. Not all of those editors ended up coming to the auction, but the book went to auction. In the week before it was auctioned, I had editorial meetings with more than 15 different editors in the industry. Every single one of them asked me the same question. Why did you write this book? And I was like, didn't you read the author's note? Why didn't everyone write this book? Why didn't everyone write this book?
Yeah.
I felt like it was such an important subject, and that we in the United States of America pretend to be this haven for people from around the world. And more, it's very clear that we are not. And that we should, in fact, be deeply ashamed of our record on human rights. And no one was paying attention. And now people are paying attention, but it's not in the right way. So I just felt like, and then eventually I ended up writing an ill-fated author's note that sort of explained some of my own personal reasons, why I was drawn to this story, some information about my background, which is relevant, but I think the author's note should have remained what it was when I first turned the book in, because in fact, that was why I wrote it, you know? And I think what ended up happening when I wrote the longer author's note was that accidentally, I think I was attempting to justify myself. Why did I write it? When in fact, I had every right to write it because I'm a novelist, you know? And that was the subject I was drawn to. It was a humanitarian crisis at the border that my country was not acknowledging. And I love fiction that shines a spotlight on something that people should be paying attention to, and they're not. So that's why I wrote it.
Thanks.
Let's dive into your new book.
Yes.
Speak to me about home. We've been to the border to Mexico, we've been to Ireland, and now we are mostly in Puerto Rico.
Yes. It's like I've just done a DNA test and I'm going to all the places. I'm going to cover them all.
Do you have any other places to write about?
No, that's it. I'm done after this, I think.
You said you were going to write about dragons after this. So.
Well, yeah, maybe import dragon. I don't know.
Irish dragons.
To be transparent, it was released in Sweden 2 days ago.
Yes.
I'm half into it.
Okay, wow, that's good. 2 days, all right.
But can you what is it about?
Okay, so
it's a complex.
It
story.
is. It is a complex story. It's a complex structure.
Yeah.
So it takes place across 70 years in this family.
Yeah.
It's a family saga, 3 generations of women, but it is not linear. So we see there are three primary characters. The grandmother character is Rafaela, and she is born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And then her daughter is Ruth, who lives in Puerto Rico until she is 7. And her daughter, Daisy, is, Rafaela's granddaughter, who grows up mostly on the East Coast of the United States. And it is really about the relationships between the 3 women and the different ways that they perceive their heritage and their ethnicity, and the failures of the ways that they communicate about this stuff. It is really about my family. This is my most autobiographical novel, for sure.
We talked about the scene in the toilet in American Dirt. There is a scene at the country club or golf club when they came there and the staff say, "You are not allowed to be here. This is only for white people."
Yep, that's a true story.
Can you prove that you are?
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a true story. So my grandfather. So I should say
you can tell about the scene, but that was a scene that caught me, and then I said, "Is this really?"
Yeah, it's true. So the circumstances of the character Rafaela are almost identical to the circumstances of my grandmother Maria, her early life. So she was born into a very well-to-do family. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm touching my microphone. She was born into a very well-to-do family in San Juan and, grew up in absolute privilege until she was a teenager, and her father lost their fortune. And she was shipped out to Trinidad to get a job on a naval base where she met my Irish-American grandfather. And they got married. They moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where they had 8 children. And my dad was the oldest of those 8 children. So in the book, Raphael only has 2 children. Because no writer wants to write 8 children.
It's complex.
Yes, and no, it was like, we cannot tolerate more characters in this book. Yeah, she has 2 children, but apart from that, her life is very similar to my grandmother's. And so much of what she endures in St. Louis is based on, you know, the stories of my grandmother's experiences. And one of those experiences was that my grandfather joined a country club. He was desperate for her to make friends because she had no friends in St. Louis. She was treated very poorly. She endured persistent racism and prejudice every day there. And she was so affronted by it, not because she had a problem with bigotry, but because it was directed at her. You know, she was like, don't you know who I am? You know? And so the idea that she would have to endure this indignity of being, you know, cast out from the country club, she was so angry about it. Not because, like I say, necessarily because of the injustice of it, but because it was directed at her. She could not understand how people didn't know who she was. But yeah, my grandfather joined the country club. When he came back with his family, they looked at her and were like, oh, it's a whites only club. And she was like, yes, and, you know? So they wouldn't give her a locker in the women's locker room. So they gave her a locker in the staff room. And every day they went there, she had to go down to the staff locker room and get changed. And she went. She kept going for years. They belonged to that country club. And when I heard this story, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that. I was like, why did they stand for it? And then, of course, I recognized that was a very privileged Generation X point of view. What choice did they have but to stand for it? That's how the world worked in her time. But my father and his siblings grew up in St. Louis feeling and being encouraged to feel very much ashamed of who they were, and trying to pass into white society. And then my generation came along, and we felt very connected, very proud of our Puerto Rican roots. And we're like, we're Puerto Rican, you know? And my dad was like, are you Puerto Rican? I don't know, you know? So this is what the novel is about, that interplay among the generations where we don't share a common language about how to talk about these things. Yeah. And we don't even really share a common point of view about what's important when it comes to identity, and trying to learn how to understand each other and make room for each other's ideas when we don't always understand where the other one is coming from.
And it's also hard being that generation because you're not allowed to be the one or the other, really.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not Puerto Rican, but you're not totally American.
That's right.
And what are you?
Yeah, that's right. And I think there's a scene in the book, midway through the book, that was actually taken from my own life, but it's the Ruth character, the middle generation character. She goes to college, and she has grown up in a white community in St. Louis where she never really felt like she totally fit in, but she assimilated as best she could and did her best to sort of shed her Puerto Ricanness. Yeah. And then she goes to college, and she's excited to sort of explore and make friends who are different from the kids that she grew up with. And she goes to the dining hall for the first time, and she walks in and she recognizes that it's entirely self-segregated. And she's like, where do I sit? She doesn't know where to sit. Does she go to the... And that was my experience in college. I didn't have the same kind of childhood that Ruth had. I had a very, very diverse upbringing and super integrated. So I was never in a room with only white people until I went to college. And then I walked into the dining hall the first week, and I realized that, like, in the main dining hall were all the white kids. And then there were other little rooms around the outside of the main dining cafeteria. And in one room, it was like all the African-American students, and another room was Asian students, and another room was Latino students. And I was like, where do I sit? You know, I knew that I didn't feel comfortable in the all-white room. I would always feel suspicious. Sitting there, I'm like, what is happening? I don't, you know, it made me uncomfortable. But I also felt quite like I felt like I needed an invitation to go into the other room. So, and then I think I have learned as I've gotten older that like many people feel this way. It's not only Puerto Rican people or Latino people. It's so many people who have an identity that's not simple, that have an identity that might be a little complex. Everyone, you know, many people have these kinds of challenges, like where do I belong? You know.
But considering the climate in the US and, well, the world as it is, how has this book been received? Any controversy or conversations about it? Or?
No, it's been really positive. It's been quieter than I would have liked, but I will take it. The alternative being loud,
it's to the storm.
Yeah. The thing is, like, the story is it's unassailable in terms of my identity. It is my family's story. Yeah. And I also think that right now there's quite a moment for Puerto Rico, thanks mostly to Bad Bunny. Do you guys know who he is? He is the number one pop star in the world right now, and he's from Puerto Rico. And he started out as a reggaeton artist, and that's not really my favorite. I listen to a lot of Latino music, but I'm more salsa, merengue, more old school Puerto Rican music, and he is like the new generation. But he had a new album that came out in January, and he brought all of these very traditional Puerto Rican influences into his reggaeton music. And the album went to #1 in the world. And then he made this announcement. He said, I'm not going to go on tour. You come to me. And he sold out like 40 shows in Puerto Rico in 4 hours. He's like a one-man economy for the island now. So people from all over the world were traveling to Puerto Rico for the last 8 months to see these Bad Bunny concerts every weekend. And he has inspired a whole new generation of Puerto Ricans, both in the United States and on the island, to feel this like tremendous surge of pride in their culture. And it's been a beautiful thing to witness. I watched the last concert last weekend draped in a Puerto Rican flag. I went to a friend's house and we were drinking pina coladas, and we watched it on Amazon Prime, and it was incredibly moving the way that he talked to Puerto Ricans abroad. Yeah. And he said, you belong to this island. And it is a thing that I think, I'm going to cry. It's a thing that Puerto Ricans in the United States don't hear very often, that like we are all one, and we, celebrate the diaspora. It was incredibly moving. And so I feel like in a very small way, I like to think that this book fits very neatly into this moment where we are really celebrating Puerto Rico outside of the borders of the island in a way that it makes me feel so proud,
Yeah. So if you want to read your book, we have to go to Puerto Rico.
Well, it certainly won't hurt. It's pretty sunny. It's pretty warm there, and you will enjoy the beach and the food and the music, and it's an amazing place to be. But yeah, I think you can also bring a little Puerto Rico to Sweden by reading it here.
So we've jumped from Mexico to Ireland to Puerto Rico, and everything is very personal. Can you tell us something about what you're writing right now?
I'm writing nothing right now, and it's really...
I think you are the first guest every author right within Zeppelin.
I have an idea for a new book, but I haven't started, and I think I have 2 daughters at home, 2 teenage daughters, and my older one just went to university in August. So it has been a time of tremendous change for my family, and I've just been like taking a deep breath for a minute. So I think
I feel you.
Yeah, maybe after the holidays. I had my last event of my tour in Puerto Rico about a month ago, And that was incredibly meaningful to me, to be in my father's hometown. And my cousin, who grew up in Puerto Rico, was born and raised there. She came with me and interviewed me for the event. And it felt like such a relief to do that event and be welcomed and celebrated in San Juan. It was wonderful. And then I think after that, I was just like, okay, now I just need a reset for a minute. So,
and then you go to Sweden.
Yeah, then it was like Sweden is next. That's what's next. Yeah, exactly.
Talking about Sweden, you can take the last one. We have a small gimmick. We give all the guests. You can take it the story.
Well, the story is not that interesting, but this is our gimmick. This is a Swedish fika. It's called a massarin. I don't know if there's an actual English word for it. It's like an almond tart.
Oh. So, okay, good. Yeah, as long as it doesn't have shrimp in it, I'm very happy.
No, so we want you to taste if you want.
Well, I know that this city Gothenburg is known for the shrimp, right? And prawns. Yeah. And I don't eat that stuff. Yeah. So everyone's offering me shrimp the whole time. And I'm like, no thanks. But almond tart, yes.
Yeah, and when you want to character an old people in Sweden, then they have this massarin.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's sugar.
And it has icing.
Yeah.
I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah.
You had icing. I don't have icing.
That's very...
Yes, you do.
I feel like that's
it's
very...
in here.
That's very sad. Yes, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
You mixed and that's a quote from the interview. Yes, I'm very happy.
This is all you need to do is give me almond tarts and I'm happy.
Yeah. So that is a Swedish fika.
That's good. I hope I'm not only supposed to eat one bite and then politely put it back on the table because
you can have more if you want.
Yeah. I think you bought 50.
Yep.
I probably won't eat 50, but I'm going to finish this one for sure.
On that note,
I think we want to say thank you for the interview and for the. Hope you enjoy your time in Sweden and hope you come back.
Thank you. I would love to come back, and I have been enjoying it very much, and I'm really grateful to you guys and all of your colleagues for welcoming me so warmly and making me feel so celebrated here. It's really nice.
It was lovely meeting you.
Thank you. You too. And thank you for reading my books.